After weeks of insulting any U.S. Olympic athlete who dares to criticize the Trump administration, Trump and his allies have apparently found one team that's worth celebrating to them: the U.S. men's hockey team. FBI Director Kash Patel actually flew down to chug beers with the winners, and President Trump called in to invite them to the State of the Union this week, mocking the U.S. women's hockey team in the process. Speaking of the State of the Union address on Tuesday, Courier is partnering with Defiance.org to host a livestream rebuttal. We're calling it the State of the Swamp. You can use code Courier15 to get a discount to view it. With the Epstein case and the kidnapping of broadcaster Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy, you'd think that FBI Director Kash Patel would have a lot to focus on right now. But instead, he was spotted at the Winter Olympics, in particular, partying with the U.S. men's hockey team. In his tenure so far as FBI director, Kash Patel has been known for getting up to a few other things. Mainly, he's been using U.S. taxpayer funds to do things like cart around his girlfriend, go on podcasts, and now party it up with the men's hockey team. These photos posted to Blue Sky capture him in the stands watching the Olympic hockey finals, as well as appearing with the team afterwards in the locker room where he posed for selfies and was also seen chugging Corona beer and partying it up like a frat boy 20 years younger than he actually is.
All brought to the courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
This scene is literally indistinguishable from the end of a movie about a college campus and a bunch of fraternity bros. Now, after winning a gold medal for the first time in decades, there's plenty for the US men's hockey team to be celebrating, but that doesn't mean that the director of the FBI needs to be pounding beers and his chest and the folding table alongside them. I'm sure seeing Kash Patel embrace his inner party animal is of great comfort to all the families of victims affected by crimes that the FBI is supposed to be investigating right now. Former FBI Special Agent Michael Feinberg captioned this clip with the following on Blue Sky. He wrote, "One of the first things we were taught at Quantico was that there is never a moment in which you are not representing the Bureau. But then again, we earned our place there and weren't granted its directorship as a sinecure for partisan malfeasance and a willingness to disregard the Constitution." What he's saying here is that Kash Patel has no business being the director of the FBI. His resume before being offered this position is that he wrote a children's book about how the election was stolen from Donald Trump in 2020. This alpha bro display is just a distraction and a deflection from the fact that Trump's cabinet has been a total unqualified, unmitigated disaster. And the national embarrassment did not end there. While Kash Patel was partying it up with the US men's hockey team, he also called in President Trump, who had this message to deliver to the men there.
One minute, and by the way, your goalie played not bad. Say hi to him. How you doing, Don? I have seen hockey goalies have slightly worse games. Unbelievable, and you were all unbelievable. And that team is pretty good you played. I don't know if it's not going to get anytime soon, right? And, you know, I tell you what, I just told my people 2 minutes ago, I didn't know they'd be calling. I said, we're giving the State of the Union speech on Tuesday night. I could send a military plane or something, but if you would like to, it's the coolest night. It's the biggest.
We're in.
Yeah,
we're out.
Can you pick us up in Miami on Tuesday morning?
Yeah, Tuesday morning. Goes to Northern Borders.
cash and we'll get the military to get you guys over.
Okay, I'm gonna let's go.
Boys are going to the State of the Union.
The nice thing about being president is I can tell you, you don't have to worry about the weather or landing. We don't care if it's snowing, if it's a worse blizzard. We sail it through that sucker just like you did on the ice.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, we'll do it at the White House anytime. What would really be cool, and we'll do the White House the next day, we'll just have some fun. We have medals for you guys. And we have to, I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that.
Absolutely.
I do believe I probably would be impeached, okay? But anyway, if you could work that out, I would be honored to have you. I'll introduce you to the whole.
I got it, boss. I got it.
Okay, you got it, Cash.
I'm on it.
Cash is doing it. I'm happy.
I'm fucking on it.
Congratulations. That was an unbelievable game. I don't know if one person that wasn't, everybody that called me said, I'm watching the hockey game. You know? I don't know of anybody that wasn't. And you're going to be proud of that game for 50 years as you grow older. I mean, it was amazing. So we love you guys. Congratulations. And I hope to see you, Cash, Tuesday night. And I want to shake hands. I'm going to shake hands with everybody, but I got to shake hands with that goalie.
Tuesday night. We'll see you Tuesday night, Mr. President.
See you Tuesday night.
I'm driving the bus, boss. We're bringing the whole bus.
So, as clearly evidenced in this video, Kash Patel's job as FBI director isn't investigating crimes. It's driving a bus and coordinating flight arrangements so that the U.S. men's hockey team can attend the State of the Union on Tuesday, where, by the way, I can assure you they will be bored to death and snoring in their chairs by the time Donald Trump is even able to put one sentence together. Nonetheless, the most shocking part of this clip isn't that these men are feigning excitement to listen to Trump drone on about how amazing he is at running the country. No, the most upsetting part of this clip is when Trump takes the opportunity to mock the US women's hockey team, also Olympic champions, also deserving of this recognition and respect, but instead, no. Trump and these men are all engaging in a contest to see who can best display their masculinity for each other, like a bunch of boys on the elementary school playground, which is about the level of maturity we're dealing with in this clip. But yes, that was Trump poking fun at the women who play hockey, and it was Trump poking fun at the idea that they would be invited to the White House or the State of the Union or be deemed important enough to receive gold medals on the White House lawn. And these US men's hockey players, their professional peers, are laughing and jeering it up in the background. What a display of disrespect for these women athletes who are performing at the very top of their field. This is the message being sent by the President of the United States to women athletes everywhere, that no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter how many games you win or how many gold medals you bring home, no matter how well you represent America on the world stage, you will only be considered a punchline as it compares to the men's success. The boys are the ones who get to go home and be considered heroes. They're the ones who get to celebrate with the president and his friends. The women's team is just considered a joke. And this behavior is coming from a president who has repeatedly declared that safety and fairness and respect for women's sports is a tentpole of his administration. Early on in his second term, Trump made an executive order to, quote, keep men out of women's sports. Now, this was a thinly veiled attempt to discriminate against transgender people by restricting and limiting their ability to play in athletics across the United States at various levels. Particularly, the way the Trump administration was able to do this was by going after Title IX funding against sex-based discrimination on college and university campuses. Trump threatened to pull federal funding from schools that refused to kick trans athletes out of these teams. Now, the attacks against trans people playing sports has always been extremely transparent. It's not about protecting women's and girls' sports. In a lot of ways, it will actually hurt women and girls' athletics. but it is instead a way to just attack trans people. This display of mocking the US women's hockey team just goes to prove that. And Rolling Stone politics reporter Nikki McCann Ramirez called it out perfectly. On X, she wrote, "This is gross on so many levels. But once again, Trump and Republicans do not care about protecting women's sports. Female athletes are still a punchline to them. Despite carrying the Milan medal count, and the players laughing alongside Trump need to answer for that same attitude." Nikki is 100% right. If you look at the US's success so far during the Winter Olympics, you can see that this record breaking number of gold medals are mostly carried by women athletes who did not receive the same type of welcome or celebration or praise that Trump and his cronies levied on to these male hockey players. Michaela Schifrin, who received the gold medal for the alpine ski, she didn't get this type of celebration or treatment. Neither did bobsledder Alana Myers Taylor, who became the most decorated Black athlete in Winter Games history this week. Neither did Alyssa Liu, who won gold in figure skating and quickly became a national treasure. But Donald Trump didn't have any kind words to say to her. No, the only words that this administration has to offer female gold medalist Olympic champions is essentially criticizing them. Vice President J.D. Vance, early on in these Winter Olympics, condemned any U.S. athletes who spoke out against his administration's brutal policies at home. And then in the same breath, he questioned why Olympic medalist Eileen Gu would compete for China instead of America. It's really not a hard question to answer, considering that this administration is hell bent on enforcing who is and who isn't considered an American based on the color of their skin, the language they speak, and the country they were born in. It's really no wonder why a competitor would choose to compete for another country, given this administration's stance on diversity in America. Nonetheless, JD Vance seems to consider this disrespectful. But what's really disrespectful is Trump and other members of his administration laughing at the accomplishments of women athletes and denigrating them on the world stage in comparison to their male peers. The reality of this administration's discriminatory policies against trans athletes is that removing them and restricting them from being able to participate in sports hasn't helped women and girls in any way, shape, or form. Instead, women and girls have actually been harmed by these punitive and discriminatory regulations and attitudes around who is and isn't considered a woman and what spaces they're supposed to be in. We've seen cis women and girls patrolled in public restrooms and prevented from going to the bathroom because people question if they're actually a woman or not. And even worse, these discriminatory efforts have had their intended effect on trans people in the US and around the world, and that they have been restricted from participating fully in public life and have suffered lots of other individual and systemic consequences as a result of these policies. A report from the Williams Institute, which is UCLA's School of Law, found that the impact of trans sport bans on well-being is devastating. Quote, "Participation in sports is linked with numerous benefits, particularly for children and adolescents. It has been correlated with higher levels of self-esteem, lower levels of depression, and greater school belonging among LGBTQ youth. Additionally, one study found that transgender and non-binary students who participated in sports reported higher grades compared to those who did not. Another study found that transgender students who participated in collegiate sports may be less likely to report psychological distress, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and suicidal behavior compared to trans students who did not participate in sports. If transgender girls and women are not allowed to participate in sports based on their gender identity, they could be denied these and other benefits. Athletic participation and sports can be an amazing tool for people's mental health, their feeling of belonging, their social skills, their communal participation, and much, much more. These discriminatory policies pushed by the Trump administration don't help anyone. They hurt trans people, trans women and girls most of all, but they also have corresponding effects against all women and girls, whether they're cis, trans, or otherwise. But the way that Trump and other members of his administration have talked about women athletes during this year's Winter Olympics goes to show that these types of discriminatory measures have nothing to do with respecting women athletes. In fact, the opposite is true. These men have no respect for these women, and they use their positions of power to mock and degrade women athletes at every chance and opportunity they get. That's what was happening on that phone call with the US men's hockey team. It was a bunch of men trying to impress each other by creating an in group where women and girls are excluded fundamentally by the basis of their sex. This is the antithesis of what the US federal government is supposed to be doing based on our laws and what we've come to agree on as a society. But Trump and his administration are pulling us backwards, and some of his fans are celebrating that. A conservative influencer on X was the first person to share the phone call clip widely, and he wrote in the replies, Trump is one of the boys. We're living in the good old days. Enjoy it while it lasts. This is the embodiment of a culture that celebrates toxic masculinity to the detriment of everyone, but especially women and girls. That's the attitude that's going to be on display at Trump's State of the Union address on Tuesday, where he'll surely try to champion these caustic ideologies as opposed to any actual success he's had as president, considering that his term thus far has been an absolute disaster by all metrics. That's why I would encourage you to seek out alternative programming. Might I suggest the State of the Swamp event being hosted by Courier in partnership with defiance.org? Use code Courier15 to check out and choose something healthier this time. That's a better alternative to watching Trump drone on with all of his alpha male frat bros about just how cool they are.